Haraldsen. So it's a Viking king. It's one of the many kings in the Viking area, one of the last ones. So that's Haraldsen who started building it in 1299. Then here in the roundabout we will just stand still for a little bit, because from here we can see the city hall well. Just so that they can see the city hall, and then we continue driving after that. So right here on the right hand side, the two high towers in brick, that is the city hall of Oslo. So every year the Nobel Peace Prize is handed out in the city hall here on the 10th of December. And normally when it's not the Peace Prize, the city hall is used for the city council. So all the political parties that are in the city council have their offices in those towers, and there's a little parliament for the city council together there as well, a room there. Many official visits. It's a beautiful hall inside. Then you see the cream yellow building with the two tiny towers there on the other side of the water.
Yeah.
Yes. That is the Nobel Peace Museum. So if you want to learn about the Peace Prize, then they have a nice collection there. Okay.
10th of December, Nobel Prize. 10th of December.
10th of December, yes, they handed out. Yeah.
The Nobel Prizes are in different fields, right? Or is it only the Peace Prize?
Only the Peace Prize is handed out here in Oslo.
Okay.
The other prizes are handed out in Stockholm, in Sweden.
Okay.
Yes. So on the other side here, you see the building that looks like a sail at the end there.
Yeah.
That is a museum for contemporary art, the Astrup Fearnley Museum. And then right behind it, a bit further in the distance, you see those three buildings that look like three big tents, those triangular buildings. Yeah, that's where we'll be heading. That is the Fram Museum. So we'll be driving in that direction. And here you see in the Oslo Fjord, part of the Oslo municipality, we have many islands that are part of the city. So we have public transport boats to the city, to the islands, and it takes just 8 minutes from the city. And then it feels like you're far away outside the city, and it's like a small nature reserve on the island there. So now we're driving in between the two parts of the Akershus fortress. So on the left hand side is the historical part with the castle, and then here on the right hand side is the active military part. So here is the military parade ground here on the right hand side. The beautiful castle extended in many different phases between 1299 and 1700. So Oslo has both a castle and a palace. Both are resident, like the houses for the royal family. But a castle is like defensive work and house, while the palace is just a beautiful big house, right, for the royal family. The castle, they no longer live there. So it was just from 1299 up until the 1700s sometime that the royal family lived there.
Akershus, right?
Akershus, yeah. So, to the left here indeed.
Mama meron akka. Magdo matakatakan na rin. Mama tito ah.
Then here on the left hand side is what we call Bank Square. There's three bank buildings all around. Two old ones no longer used, but the one on the right hand side is the current Norwegian bank. So they are in charge of the big oil fund that Norway has. So that's steered from there.
Norwegian.
If you go to the left here.
Your language is Norwegian?
No, I'm from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And I've been living and working here for 10 years, so I can speak Norwegian as well.
No, I'm asking the language here, official language.
My
is,
mother tongue.
is-
Oh, here in Norway is
Yeah,
Norwegian. Yes,
Norwegian.
my mother tongue is Dutch.
Dutch.
Yes. So behind the fort, so first the city was founded at the foot of the hill, but then it was built in wood. So it burned down very often. So when it burned down for the 14th time in 1624, yes, we just do a circle around the fountain.
Here?
Yes, circle around and then we go up there. Yes. Oh, yes. When the city burned down for the 14th time in 1624, then Danish king who ruled here said, enough of this, we are going to rebuild the city behind the fortress because then it's easier to defend the city as well. So here, this fountain with that glove, with the hand pointing, is the hand of the Danish king in 1624 that said, here is where we build the city. So in 1624, this became the main square. And that yellow building here and the brick building, that's the oldest buildings here in this part of the town. So that's the yellow one is the oldest half timber building. It's to the left here.
What is this building you said?
Oldest.
This red building.
Yes, the oldest building in this part after moving the
Okay.
city.
So this is the after the transformation from the wooden city, right?
Exactly, yes. So then the Danish king said we're no longer allowed to build in wood, we have to build in stone, which is much more expensive. To the left here, please. Of traffic here. Sorry.
2 cars, but so slowly driving. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
How
those
can I-
small electric bikes, it's really scary.
Sometimes
call
they are
this-
flying.
Yeah, they're so fast. I know. So now we're close to the restaurant you ate at. So you know the way, the next one to the right?
Next time right.
Yes, exactly. So when they rebuilt the city in 1624, they made it with a really strict grid pattern. You can see it, these streets, right, being perpendicular to each other. They call this area Kvadraturen, the quadrants, because it's all square. And then they made for 1624, these are very wide roads. That's to prevent city fires, so that if there is a fire, only one little square burns down and not the whole city. So it's all part of the plan for securing
To
the city.
prevent fires.
Prevent the fires, yes. So here's straight ahead, the yellow brick building, that's the Parliament building. So in Norwegian, the Parliament building is called Stortinget. Stor means big, and Tinge is like the same name as the Viking gathering. So the big gathering, literally translated. It's a good name for the Parliament. It was finished in 1866, and as you've seen, there's many demonstrations in front of the Parliament building, almost every day. So on average, there's 200 demonstrations, 200 days a year, there's demonstrations here. So anybody can demonstrate, you just have to fill out the form, and then as long as there's no risk to the national security, you can.
So very peaceful protest.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it is. Sometimes there's a bit of extra police security, but normally it's very peaceful, yeah. It's nice to do right outside the Parliament building because all the politicians can see it, and hopefully it will have influence on the politicians. We'll see. Then, as we are with at the next traffic light, if you look to the left, you will see the main entrance of the city hall. So here on the left-hand side is the main entrance between those towers.
This is where you do the Nobel Peace
National.
Prizes, right?
Yes, that's where the Nobel Peace Prize is handed out. It's also where you get married. If you're a citizen of Oslo, that's where you get married. Really nice place.
Can't you find a citizen?
He wants to find someone.
You find
to get
someone.
married, yeah.
The building here on the right-hand side is the National Theatre. It was finished in 1899, and it still has a lot of plays, theaters, shows by that are originally written by the Norwegian author Ibsen. You know about Ibsen, or the playwriter? We sometimes say he's the Shakespeare of Norway. He's not as big as Shakespeare, but sometimes people abroad know it as well. His books are translated, his plays as well.
We have a writer here. If at all, she might know.
I heard him from
You know the way to the museum from here?
No, it depends. Can we are going straight?
Yes, please.
And then behind Majorstua and this way.
Yes, so to from museum.
Yeah.
So the park on the right-hand side is the Palace Park. So the palace is located right behind the trees here. We'll see it in a minute. Here on the left-hand side is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A beautiful building there. The bronze sculpture on the square here, that is the first Norwegian king when we became independent again, Kong Haakon the Seventh. So King Haakon the Seventh. On the right-hand side, you see the palace.
Yeah.
And the equestrian sculpture in front of it is the first Swedish king that ever stayed at this palace. We've been under Denmark and under Sweden. So that is the Swedish king Karl Johan. And here's the palace. Normally when the flag is up, the royal family is at home.
Who is the king nowadays?
It's Harald and Sonja is the queen. Harald and Sonja.
So difficult to pronounce.
I know, sorry. And then so Norway was first independent, like a Viking kingdom. There was a Viking king that gathered all the small tribes into one country, and his name is Harald Hårfagre, Harald with the pretty hair. But then in Viking times, any son could inherit the throne when the father dies.
Any son, not the
Any,
eldest.
not the eldest, anyone. So
Okay.
then they found out that that was not a good idea because
Because
the
they-
sons ended up killing each other.
Yes.
Oh yes. So then they introduced a law at around 1350 that it's only the eldest son that can inherit the throne, and it was a bit more peaceful. But of course, you can still get killed. You can still kill the elders if you're the second one. If but just go straight
This
ahead.
way, yeah.
What is this building?
So the building on the left-hand side here, that's the National Library. So it is the Dijkman that we saw in the beginning is the public library, the big one. This is the national one. It's a much older one. So many people go there to study, and they have a nice archive with all the books. Okay. Come on.
Water bottle.
Oh, water bottle. Okay. So when it comes to the royal family, then at around 1400, the most horrible thing that can happen to you as a king happens.
Okay.
He didn't get any sons. So then, but he did have a daughter. So then through marriages, long story short, Norway became part of Denmark. Yeah. So we were just a province of Denmark. We didn't have any control over our own country anymore. So if you wanted to study, you had to go to Copenhagen. Anybody that had any rule here, anything to say, they came from Copenhagen here to rule the country. If we found any natural resources like copper and such, it was sent to Copenhagen to build it and make it pretty there. So not a good time. In the Norwegian history books, we sometimes call that the 400-year-long night. So dark times. Then Denmark was at the losing side of the Napoleon War, the big Napoleon War in Europe. And when that Napoleon War ended, a peace treaty was signed, and that was in 1814. And then Denmark had to give Norway to Sweden. So in 1814 we
they were
changed.
just handed over.
Yes, they were handed over because Denmark lost.
Okay.
But in that transition period, there's this vacuum of power, right?
Okay.
So then a lot of like rich tradesmen in Norway came together and wrote the constitution. So in 1814 we got our constitution, and the Swedish king wasn't very happy about it, but he agreed. So we could kind of control our own country. So we could start building up like a parliament and getting elections and all of this, like the controlling body for a country. The only thing that the Swedes controlled was the royal family was Swedish, still in 1814, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was Swedish. And Norway being a big seafaring country with a lot of trade abroad, if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if another country is controlling that, that's not very good for the trade. So they tried to break free. And it took 90 years before they became independent. So in 1905, we finally became independent. Luckily it went in a peaceful manner, because the people that wrote the constitution were really clever. They added in a paragraph that said if the Swedish king vetoes the same law that comes through, like gets the majority in 3 different parliaments, then we can kick the Swedish king off of the throne. So in 1905 it was finally the case that for the 3rd time there was an absolute majority in the parliament that wanted to become independent. So it was the 3rd time that the Swedish king said no. But since it was the 3rd time, we could kick him off, at least according to the constitution. So then luckily it was a very Norwegian friendly Swedish king. So it went without any war. That we became independent in 1905. So now we are soon arriving at the so-called Museum Peninsula. It's called Bygdøy. We'll drive past several museums before we get all the way to the end to the Fram Museum. So at the Fram Museum we will see a boat that was used in the polar expeditions. So the boat was especially built to be able to withstand being stuck in the ice. It was a very solid boat.
It has gone to Arctic and Antarctic both, yeah?
Indeed. You read up. Well done. Well done. So before we get to the museum, we'll see the so-called Royal Farm. Royal Farm, yes. So back in the days they used to produce all the products that the royal family needed, or at least almost all. So all the land you see here on the left-hand side, those meadows, the cows are not out yet. No, it's not, still too cold. But normally if you see cows here and sheep here, they are royal cows. They are still
Royal
producing.
Royal cows.
Royal cows getting killed for the royal family, yeah? Okay.
Getting kept to the royal family. So they still produce ecological milk.
We get the
Lots of
royal
We
royal
can-
ducks.
royal ducks are there.
The royal ducks.
Grazing. So the red building there on the left hand side, that is the royal farm. And then you see the white building just ahead of us, right next to the farm. That is one of the many residencies for the royal family. So this is kind of their summer home if they want to get away and not live smack in the middle of town. And when there's a lot of security, then we know that they're at their summer home. But I don't see any guards, so I don't think they're here.
They were there. The flag was on.
Yeah, the other one. Yeah, exactly. So it's quiet here. Then just behind here.
ගොඩක් ලොකු නෑ ඒක. It's not much big.
No, it's not that big. No, it's modest, right? Then the next museum we'll see is the open air museum. And it's mostly famous for having a stave church there. So the stave church that used to be at Goul, a wooden church from the 1200s. So it survived that long. So it's 1250 that the church was built in Goul. But then when the population grew and the churches had to get bigger, a lot of the wooden stave churches were broken down and then stone churches were built. But luckily they kept this wooden church and moved it to here. So if you look at the right hand side, you see the wooden church.
Oh.
So it's the stave church of Goul.
Can't we just go inside?
No, unfortunately, it's part of the museum, of the open air museum. So, no. But now that there's no leaves on the trees yet, we can at least see it through the trees. In the summertime, you can't really see it anymore.
This is the forest. 90% of the Oslo is forest, right?
70%.
70%.
Yes, yeah. But here there's just a few bits and pieces, but when we go up to the viewpoint,
ඔස්ලෝ
we'll see.
වලින් 70%ක් තියෙන්නේ.
And right behind this open air museum, they are rebuilding the Viking ship museum. So the Viking ships, also from around 1200, 1300s, they found them in like royal graves. And because it was the soil was clay, so very dense and no oxygen could get in, that's how the wood stayed preserved. And that's why we could find these wooden boats, and they are trying to keep them in good condition. But then they are inside a museum here on the right hand side, and it has been closed now for many years because of the construction. But the wooden boats are so fragile that as soon as there's a bit too much vibration from the construction work, then alarms go off because the boat moves too much, then all the construction work has to be stopped. So there's delay upon delay to complete the new museum. We'll see, hopefully it will open next year, the Viking Ship Museum.
But then we can't come again next year, no?
Not? As an Oslo guide, it is my job to like sell Oslo, right? So that you come back again. You notice, yeah. So
So you are a citizen now, Norwegian citizen, right?
no,
Or-
not yet, not yet.
So,
But I still have my Dutch passport.
done.
So, but I have permanent residency here. Yes. It's if I become a Norwegian citizen, then I have to hand in my Dutch passport. I don't want
Which you don't want to do.
that. Not yet. Maybe thinking about it. Then the Fram Museum, which we are going into, is all about the polar expeditions. So there's two big Norwegian polar explorers. we have Nansen and Amundsen. So Fridtjof Nansen was the first one. And he started his big career, the big journey that really started this whole project of Fram, was that he went by ski over Greenland. So he crossed Greenland by skiing. And normally they do that from the east to the west coast. East coast there are still some settlements. The west coast there's no settlements, so you never know for sure if you're going to the west whether the ship will be there to pick you up or whether you survive. So he was really smart. He was the first expedition to go from the west coast to the east coast, because then there's no turning back. Once you leave from the west coast, then you have to go towards the settlements, otherwise it's certain dead. So that gave a lot of motivation to fulfill that expedition, so to cross Greenland. Then after that, they had to stay. They missed the last boat to back to Copenhagen, so they just had to stay there over winter at Nuuk. But there they learned a lot about how to survive an Arctic winter from the indigenous population, the Inuit population. And all that knowledge was key to be able to survive the other polar expeditions, which we will learn more about now. Right.